The political machine triumphs because it is a unified minority against a divided majority. Will Durant. Welcome to the Applied Awareness Podcast, where you join me, Adam French, on my journey of expanding my awareness of self and the world around me. Then find creative ways to apply that awareness to live a more successful and fulfilling life. In this third episode, using awareness for political understanding, I talked to my friend Jeremy Chevalier. Jeremy is a superstar designer and a passionate agent for political change. He's the founder and creator of Wikiprops, which is a platform that he's building to help people understand policy. It removes the legalese and terrible design from how the policy is displayed and allows people to really understand it easily. So over this episode, we'll talk about the state of political discourse in America and how partisanship is really negatively affecting that discourse, as well as negatively affecting our process for actually making policy, and how focusing on issues over people can lead to more productive conversation. We talk about innovative solutions for political representation and policy making. We talk a little bit about picking people randomly off the street to be our policymakers. And we touch on how to be an agent for political agreement through your conversations in everyday life, and how to find a more peaceful and productive way to talk about politics with people who disagree with you. It's going to be a really good episode. Everyone needs to know how to talk politics in a productive way. I think you guys will learn a lot from this episode, because I definitely did. Let's get started. All right, I'm here at the lavish recording studio of the Wayne Smith with my friend Jeremy Chevalier. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. How you doing?
Good. Actually, I'm going to push your French for a second. You ready?
Yeah.
Jérémy
Jeremy
Chevalier.
Chevalier.
Très bien.
Oui, merci. What's the biggest kind of project you've been working on lately?
Publoft. Publoft is a smart agency that takes awesome freelance writers and feeds them post outlines driven by keyword strategy and topic research, and creates awesome blog content for companies.
And you're also working on Wikiprop, correct? You want to explain a little bit about what that is?
Sure, yeah. Wikiprop is a website you can go to read and understand laws more easily. And right now, it's only got the 5 propositions that were on the November 6th ballot.
Okay.
But the idea is to create a place where anybody can read and understand laws that they care about, that matter to them, and then ideally suggest changes or raise concerns with laws and propositions.
So people can change or suggest changes to policy using an online platform.
That's the long term.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's not interactive right now. Right now it has 5 propositions, 1 Senate bill, and the beginning of a category page on the noise laws in Arizona.
Gotcha. So I'm guessing you're adding these manually.
Yeah, it's manual HTML.
Oh, okay. Just throwing it in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've used WordPress so much that I decided to do this one custom.
Oh.
And then realized that this would probably be like the use case for WordPress instead.
Yeah, probably, right? A lot of content you need to manage.
Yeah, at the end of the day, there's actually a really cool API called the Legiscan API that has already basically done everything that I want to do in terms of categorizing and scanning and recording all of the laws in the United States.
Oh, okay. So it's all online.
It's all online. It's available through an API. It is either free or pretty insignificant cost. And what I need to do
That's
is,
awesome.
yeah, I don't know how to work with APIs, right? So I need to tap into the API and publish the content on Wikiprop in the way that I feel it's best designed.
And what inspired your creation of Wikiprops? Was it discontent with politics in general in the US or in the world, or kind of what kind of sparked that? Like, I need to make this platform.
Great question. So the story behind the birth of Wikiprop was that I wanted to vote yes on, I believe it was Prop 206 back in 2016, the legalization of recreational marijuana use.
Okay.
And what happened was...
So we can thank weed for the genesis of Wikiprops.
we birthed it, yes. Yeah, it was a hot topic back in that day. And I had a lot of friends who wanted to support it. And I guess word got out. I never actually did my own research, which is part of what ended up, spurring the idea of easy to read formatting.
Gotcha.
But what I heard about through friends and about Prop 206 was that it was the right intention with the wrong execution.
Okay.
So the money was going to these people, and certain corporations or whatever had first access to the marketplace, right? And basically, people saw red flags within the legislation in specific places. And overall, they wanted to vote it in.
Yeah.
But they felt that this wasn't the right way to do it. And so it lost. And those hundreds of thousands of dollars spent campaigning for the legalization of recreational pot went down the fucking toilet.
Yeah.
And I thought, what if there was a way that we could find those red flags and just update the sections, right?
Yeah.
Find the stuff that's good, find the stuff that's bad, fix it like Yoast in WordPress, look for the little green lights and the little red lights.
Yeah.
Fix the things that are going to cause it to fail.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where it was born. And so the very idealistic long-term vision, of course, is that to allow people to collaborate on policy.
Yeah.
For now, since it's one of those network effect type platforms where you need a lot of people for it to make sense.
And a lot of content.
And a lot of content, it has to first provide value to voters, to constituents. Just provide value. Just help people learn, help people understand, give people a reason to come, and then we can start asking them for their contributions, like Waze, right? Waze gained mass adoption because people were downloading the app to see where the cops and the speed traps were.
Yeah.
And then Waze started saying, hey, by the way, while you're using our app, let us know if you see traffic, let us know if you see construction or accidents. And they crowdsourced that information.
Yeah. Interesting. And you took inspiration from Waze and how they did things?
Their go-to-market strategy on their user side was, let's just give a service for free. Mm-hmm. And then once we have the users, we can crowdsource data from them. So yeah, definitely taking inspiration from that approach.
Awesome. Yeah, building up a lot of users and then deciding how to make it feasible is a very popular approach in today's environment.
At the end of the day, I think the secret is just to stay true to the users themselves, right? If the goal originally is to provide value, and then the goal long term is to source value from them, just focus on that. And I think a lot of times they're starting a startup, in quotes, more than they are solving a problem, or they're chasing.
They fall in love with the solution, not the problem.
For example, or they fall in love with the fucking money, right?
Yeah.
They fall in love with the promise of the $1 billion exit instead of just sticking their nose to the grindstone and focusing on a problem. So yeah, you're exactly right.
And let's talk about that problem a little bit. Currently, the interface between the voice of the people and the voice of the people itself, for one, but the interface between the voice of the people and laws being written into our Constitution, that doesn't seem to be pleasing very many people at this point. What is your take on the reason why these voices are getting distorted from grassroots to legislation?
People have lost touch with what they really want. And that's what I love about this podcast that you're doing, is that when we become more aware of our own values, and when we become more aware of what's possible, we can better match our values to these seemingly endless choices that we have, or murky decisions, right? I mean, how the hell am I supposed to know if Prop 305 is good or bad for the public schools and the private schools and everybody here and there, and there's so many moving parts? What do I even think is right? Do I think the public schools should deserve all the money? Do I think people get to decide where their money goes? And too often, the conversations aren't even being had, right? For one, we can't blame everyone. Like, there's people who are just trying to survive. They're just trying to make their rent or their mortgage and to raise their family. And they don't have time to, attend a meetup that's going to help them understand their choices that they have.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, I think we as a society have become pretty disconnected from our own values, our own personal or familial values. And we don't even necessarily know if we want to support, the taxpayer or the corrections officer retirement benefit, like 125.
Yeah. That was confusing for me. I had no clue.
Even when we kind of understand, okay, so the point is that, benefits are going to change, whatever, we don't even necessarily know, like, what's the right pick.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the fact that we're not so aware of our own values anymore.
Yeah.
We've just become really lost in the rat race, the consumerism and everything. And I would say...
And the noise of this partisan politics that's going on.
And the noise of the partisanship, where it's rah, rah, red, rah, rah, blue.
Yeah.
It's just become the fucking Super Bowl, right? And you either die hard one team or die hard another team, or both sides hate you.
Or be apathetic about the whole thing.
Or
don't vote.
Don't vote, don't watch the Super Bowl, don't watch the commercials. Yeah. And like you brought up that Pew, that interactive graph that everybody should check out.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
There was another great one that I had seen a long time ago that basically showed year by year the political positioning of each member of Congress, represented by little colored dots on a square
quadrant
graph.
thing.
Yeah, like a quadrant. Year by year, starting with the first ever Congress, or the first one that they had data for, until today, when the graph was created, you watched this fucking cell mitosis happen. Where before, the Democrats and the Republicans, they were all red or blue, based on how they identified, or they would, I can't remember if they had the independents as a specific color or whatever. Yeah. I don't even know if you can be elected as an independent.
I don't know, but
I don't actually know.
Maybe, yeah.
We should look that up. But anyway, the chart was really cool because it showed peace year by year, all of these little red and blue dots mingling. And then year by year, spreading to the point where there were very few people.
Since when, do you remember?
I think since the dawn of Congress. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of data, but it's basically was showing the exact same thing that you pulled up in your graph, which is like year by year, you can see the polarization happening, where people they're not even thinking about or talking about the issue so much as they are repeating bandwagon and just bullshit slogans.
Yeah.
And
hashtags used for bad.
Hashtags and shit. Yeah, and it's become a lot less about the issues and a lot more about loyalty, fidelity.
Whose side are you on?
Yeah. Are you a loyal Democrat? Are you a loyal Republican? And it's turned into like this tribe thing.
Yeah. I really want to vote both sides of the ballot, but one big thing for me is like the environment. We need to be dealing with this shit right now.
Right.
And I see some people who have like, we need to secure our borders over, we need to secure our environmental stability. And I'm like, I can't go that way. Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, I want to vote for people that are about the issues. I don't like, if I see you doing an attack ad on someone else, I'm probably not going to vote for you because I know you don't want to collaborate, right? Like, I'd rather vote for I'd rather vote for someone who cares more about like stuff that don't match my values and want to collaborate than someone who more matches my values and doesn't want to collaborate at all.
Absolutely.
Because to me, it's preventing positive things from being done.
That's a great point, Adam. Honestly, the thing with voting for people, the reason why Wikiprop in the foreseeable future has no involvement with people is because at the end of the day, we don't need elected officials to make policy for us. And there's an awesome project called the Sortition Foundation that is coming up with a data-backed way of randomly selecting a group of citizens to decide on policy issues on behalf of the rest of the nation.
So you're like rolling this lottery ball, and you're like, okay, Joe the plumber is going to be Congressman number 1, and Lucy the school teacher is going to be Congresswoman number 2.
Exactly, and
okay.
It's the plumbers and the school teachers and the electrical engineers and the whoever's.
And maybe a few Wall Street bankers.
Which is fine because there's diversity at the table.
Yeah.
And the lottery cage with all the little lottery balls in it with the Joes and the Lucys, the lottery cage only contains people who want to be a part of the process. Which is still a way big enough pool to, according to the Sortition Foundation, get a representative group of people who can actually do good work and make super responsible decisions instead of just electing the popular kids.
Yeah. I wanna go over a quote that I heard in a TED Talks recently. I didn't catch exactly who it was by, but it's a really good quote that kind of explains what's going on. It says, "The enemies of democracy hack our feelings of fear, hate, and vanity, and use these feelings to polarize and destroy democracy from within." That really, for me, kind of captured the essence of what's happening. We want polarization, so politicians give us that because they're catering to get more power, right? They're hacking our feelings, they're hacking our emotions that we're using when voting to get into power.
That's the thing, and I don't think enough people are aware of this. Our reptilian brain wants the polarization. Our reptilian brain wants the you versus me, the I have everything I need to survive at your expense.
Yeah.
But we're so much further than that as a species and as a culture.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what sells, right? If it bleeds, it leads. That's what they say in the news. And at the end of the day, when you target the what did you call it?
Limbic system.
When you target the limbic system, you get these emotional fight or flight responses.
Yeah.
And yeah, it becomes us versus them.
And you can't think about the issues
and
because your mind's too clouded by these primal urges almost.
Yeah, and I mean studies have shown the kinds of chemical imbalances that go on when you target fear, anxiety, hatred, and vanity in those kinds of ways. And so of course they're going to do that because they're not after the real solutions like we were talking about, right? They're just trying to fucking make some money. They're just trying to get in power.
Yeah.
And that's the case for the Sortition Foundation. It's also the case for, to bring it back to Wikiprop, not even thinking so much about the people, the elected officials, and being much more serious about the issues themselves, the propositions, the ballot measures.
Yeah.
I mean, I hear everybody talk about who's getting elected to this position and that position, and very, very little conversation around the ballot measures themselves.
Yeah.
When in reality, if we focus on the issues themselves, we realize that a vast majority of people agree on a vast majority of issues.
Yeah. I want our kids to be educated. I want everyone to be well and healthily fed. I want our environment to survive for the next 50 years.
Exactly.
Everyone wants that.
And the beauty of it, Adam, is that you clearly care about the environment.
Oh, yeah.
So you should focus on that. And people who care about border security and immigration fairness, justice, can focus on that. That's what I want to do with Wikiprop, is you don't even have to worry about the stuff that's not as concerning to you. Like for me personally, I don't have a strong pull towards animal rights.
Yeah.
But my girlfriend, Elizabeth,
Yeah.
like can't stand to see roadkill. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
really, really gets to her. And so of the entire political spectrum, if there's a question of animal rights, she's fucking there.
Yeah.
And I want her to be there.
You want the people who care about issues to be the foremost contributors to policy around those issues.
You're damn right. And if we can create, I mean, there's a lot of cool technology going on right now with these neural networks and just AI in general, machine learning and all of that. But what I envision is a system in which the people who care most about specific issues are collaborating on solutions to those issues.
Yeah.
And policy is a part of those issues. The people who have a special interest to protect at the expense of that particular issue will be a part of that conversation. But when we enable the conversation between the people who care most about it, I believe that the right solutions will come out of that. And what that means is lowering the barrier to participation.
Yeah.
How do we get
Absolutely.
more people involved in the process and make it fucking fun?
Yeah.
Right? People go to Facebook. People go to Twitter. People go to BuzzFeed. How do we make law like BuzzFeed? How do we make policy like the Super Bowl?
It's a great vision that you have, but I think large crowds and on social media people see the groupthink consequences. You know, like Facebook didn't plan for that. Twitter didn't plan for that, for people to be in these bubbles where, oh, I don't like that political opinion, unfollow. And some people make a conscious effort. I think everyone listening right now should try to make a conscious effort to go and follow like 8 to 10 people that you don't agree with, but you think have like are rational, right? There are always those people, you know, because if you don't think anyone who disagrees with you is rational, you're probably extreme, right? You're probably polarized to the point where your own thoughts are being biased, right? So if you see yourself doing that, like, oh, unfollow. I mean, if it's bullshit hate speech, like no evidence, then
Of course.
yeah, go ahead and mute that person. But that's what I tried to do, and I end up kind of not changing my opinion, but gaining depth to my perspective on issues and understanding the whole issue.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest challenges that people have is questioning their own, or like putting themselves in check, right?
Yeah.
Being self-aware enough to say, you know, I disagree with that, but I understand why I disagree with it, so it's not just this irrational, like, you're threatening my way of life response.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I disagree with that because I feel that things are this way, and I've thought through this a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard the quote or the saying, whatever, that philosophy is the art of holding two opposing points of view at the same time.
Yeah.
How do we all get a little better at that?
Wow. Yeah.
When I can attend, and there's a great series of events here in Phoenix called Arizona Talks that dabbles into the political side a little bit, and they had a fantastic panel on education policy about a month ago at ASU, and I got to hear from two very passionate speakers on both sides of education policy. Two who were gung-ho about all the dollars to the public school system, fuck the ESA or whatever, the tax credit, the vouchers.
Yeah, the vouchers.
And two people who were gung-ho for the vouchers. And not necessarily at the expense of the public system.
Yeah.
But I got to listen to both sides of the argument, and it helped me realize that I kind of agreed with both sides of the argument.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, once again, here's another fucking use case for Wikiprop. Can we just collaborate on and find the right solution? And that's why I love what you said about voting for somebody that has real collaborative potential and real collaborative skills.
Yeah.
Even if their views don't necessarily align with your views. Because it's almost more important to just have people who know how to work together.
Yeah.
And
Because then I know their views are going to change to what they think is reasonable.
they're open-minded enough about it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Because if you're open-minded about stuff, then, I mean, when presented with, in terms of global warming, when presented with the absolute waterfall of evidence, like for it and for the anthropogenic cause of it, like you have an open mind enough to say, hey, I mean, I think domestic oil drilling would support our economy, but I can also see the development of wind and solar kind of future-proofing the development of our economy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people who understand these just realities and also collaborative and open-minded, but also that have a long-term view beyond their 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Because people are like, I don't want to make investments on X if it's not going to pay back in like at least, you know, just two years or less, you know. And have people who know that, okay, well, I need to make this investment. It'll kind of be unquantifiable return over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
But people that are comfortable making those investments, which given kind of the economic structure of businesses, it kind of, that drives a lot of policy, right?
Yeah.
And the quarterly structure is kind of misaligned our incentives.
Exactly. There's a philosophy that Native American cultures hold, and I can't get any more specific than that, but I've just heard that Native American cultures have this concept of 7 generations, 7th generation. In fact, there's a brand. There's a consumer product brand that makes like dish soap and stuff like that called 7th
I
Generation.
feel like I've seen that somewhere before.
And the concept is...
Shout out 7th Generation.
Shout out to 7th
Buy
Generation.
that soap.
The concept is that the Native Americans hold dear to their hearts, I believe, is how do our decisions today affect the people 7 generations from now?
That's a long ass time.
That's a long ass time. But can we start with like 1 generation or 2 generations?
Yeah.
What are the decisions that we make today? How are those decisions and those executions going to impact, you know, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? And that's a little bit easier for people to wrap their minds around. And again, it comes back to just an awareness of the possibilities, right? If we scale back on carbon output, if we scale back on oil and gas production and focus more on renewables, how does that impact the environment? Great. How does that impact my wallet today? Is my energy bill going to be higher? Well, only if APS decides that they don't want to cut their profit margins. Yeah. Then yes, the energy bill is going to be higher. And what are you going to do? It's free market, you know. Oh wait, you can't just pick a different electric provider.
Well, that's what the corporate regulation commission or whatever is for.
And the question is, how many people are aware of that? Right? You look at your ballot, how many people actually understand what the Corporation Commission does?
Yeah.
And even if it says it right there, the Corporation Commission is responsible for regulating corporations.
What does that mean in practice?
What does that mean? Yeah, people didn't pay attention in government class, or it was too long ago, right?
Yeah.
And again, there's not this level of interest and excitement for government affairs because it's boring and monotonous, and the people who conduct government affairs are not in the business of marketing, right? They're not trying to make it exciting.
Yeah.
That's the job of passionate people like us to distill the crap and the murk and turn it into something exciting and
that
unique,
everyone can use,
that people will actually flock to.
Yeah.
Can you imagine people having conversations in the street about propositions?
Yeah.
Or at a coffee shop and being open-minded about, oh, really? You feel that way? Wow, it's interesting. Well, I appreciate you voicing your opinion. I disagree, but I'm glad we had this talk because I'm going to marinate on it and maybe I'll change my mind.
Yeah. No way. Everyone in the bar would stand up and start clapping for you. You know, you'd be a fucking celebrity. You'd be like, man agrees with other person on politics. Like a headline in the paper.
Makes national news.
He got a fucking Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it happens. It happens more than we admit.
It is. I would say that if there was a peak of societal unawareness or
I guess ignorance.
Yeah, if there was a peak of societal apathy, societal ignorance, societal filth, whatever we want to call it, like I think there was a peak maybe a couple years ago, and we're already on the rise. I mean, it's not just with like the goat yoga and the growing adoption of like vegetarianism, veganism, different lifestyles.
Oh, this
like
trendy, let's adopt a Eastern philosophy but gentrify it a little bit.
That's a good way to put it. But there's like more and more of that, like you rode your bike here, right? You didn't take an Uber. Like more people are riding their bikes.
Money for that.
Right. But like more and more people are riding their bikes, and more people are gardening in their front yard or in an urban environment.
People want to get involved and get connected with their humanity.
Yeah, we want to shop from farmers markets instead of freaking Walmart.
Yeah.
And we're seeing more and more of a trend towards that. And honestly, I think that now is the fucking time to optimize the shit out of people starting to like open back up.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes in being aware enough of our own values, aware enough of our own beliefs and of our own shortcomings, and aware enough of things like personality types, right? Instead of taking it personally that the other guy's looking at his shoes when you're trying to talk to him, understanding that that's an introvert.
Yeah.
Or understanding, being aware that it's possible that, something bad happened earlier in the day. And that's why the conversation is going the way it is. But just being open to those possibilities.
Yeah.
And then being in the situations where you can have real conversations, real face-to-face conversations.
And to kind of apply that to talking about policy with someone, you can have that knowledge and have that confidence in your own beliefs. And that way you can acknowledge that the other person is coming from a place where they're not out to get anyone. They're not, they're not trying to destroy what you believe in. I remember one time, this just popped into my mind, and it is really, really fucking funny. I was on LinkedIn and I saw something comparing CNN to fake news. I was like, I want to see what the comments look like on this. And after like 2 threads, this person started comparing a Democratic Senate to the coming of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And someone was like, amen, brother. Like, I was like, what? Wait, what? Like, people think that the Democrats are the Antichrists? Like, how did this happen? It's once you become confident in your own beliefs and the understanding that this came from my experiences, this came from deliberation on my point. So I have counterpoints. I have examples of my experience to talk about when having that conversation. So when you unleash those, I think the reaction and the awareness of the reaction of someone else. Do they come back at you like scratching and clawing, like at your throat? Yeah. Because that's happened to me sometimes. I've asked some very open-ended questions. Like, why do people try to out-victimize each other? That's what I said, because that's a thing. Like the Meninist movement, right? Like all these movements where it's like, oh no, I'm the victim. No, I'm the, that's a thing, And people came at me and they were like, why do you talk that way about people who were slaves 300 years ago? I was like, I'm not talking about that. I didn't say anything about that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a very open-ended question, and people, I think, I can't really come up with a reason for it other than it comes from their own, lack of confidence in their beliefs.
People are angry at themselves and parts of themselves. I mean, how often have you been just deeply angry or just pissed, frustrated at something, and either a part or whole of you knows that you're angry at yourself for making the mistake, or you're partly angry at your spouse and partly angry at yourself because you allowed it to happen, but
absolutely,
we may or may not be able to admit that to ourselves and out loud.
It's a vulnerability problem, for sure.
Vulnerability.
A lot of people have it.
And more beyond that, people are angry at the way things are and their feeling of powerlessness at changing or improving the situation. A lot of us get super, super frustrated about, the fact that we hit every fucking red light on the way home. Like, tiny, insignificant shit like that, right? Or the fact that the cat peed on the blanket again.
Yeah.
Or that, there wasn't enough coffee in the coffee maker. Like,
no, y'all know what makes Jeremy angry every day.
The coffee maker thing doesn't actually piss me off. But those are some things. For me, it's like, it's inefficiencies or like injustices, right? Why did it have to happen the one day that I'm like, just really want to get to the gym on time, or I really needed to, whatever. Why did it have to happen to me today? And I'm of the belief that everything happens for a reason in life, right? That's a lesson that I need to learn, is patience.
Yeah.
And I get that. And every fucking red light is a lesson in patience.
Just like talking with someone you don't agree with is a lesson in economics or maybe even racism or
in
healthcare,
checking yourself.
In checking yourself and checking your ego at the door and making it about the ideas and issues that you are talking about.
Because when you truly attempt to understand someone else's perspective that is differing from your own, you grow as a person.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you have to change your mind if it still doesn't make sense.
People are scared of that growth.
Yeah.
They're scared of that growth because they want to, like, it's like a addiction to wanting to be self-confident.
Yep.
Like, I don't want to change because I love myself. If you really love yourself, you know your flaws.
So to go back to what you said about being in our own bubbles,
yeah.
Facebook didn't intend for the echo chamber shit to happen.
You could change it through design.
You could change it through design. And here's the thing. I want to relate it to cars. When I'm in my car, and you're in your car, and he's in his car, and she's in her car, and we're all in our cars, we can't communicate more than a honk, which typically triggers shitty reactions.
Yeah, I fucking hate being honked at.
High beams,
yeah,
which typically triggers these shitty, like, self-defensive kind of reactions.
Yeah.
And turn signals. So we effectively have 4 words.
And maybe hand gestures through the window.
And maybe hand gestures, right? Okay, yeah, go ahead, like motion to go ahead, or flip you off because, I'm pissed off at the world or whatever.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is that cars are severely flawed in their design for communicating between people.
Oh, yeah.
And in the same way, the very systems that we're using to communicate today are flawed because they're regurgitating the shit that they think we want to see. I mean, watch one political YouTube video and watch the recommended videos. Click on a next recommended politically oriented
those algorithm
YouTube video.
deep dives on YouTube, I've heard some crazy shit.
Every time you watch, you go deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole, and within 5 or 6 clicks of recommended videos, you're comparing a Democratic Congress to the fucking Antichrist.
New World Order, baby.
And you're believing it. And you're like, God damn those Democrats. No, they're just people like you with families and jobs and cars and concerns that match yours.
Yeah.
We're all people.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that algorithm trickery is real. And I mean, that's the thing. As a designer, you could change, like, I did a little piece where I just changed the microcopy on Facebook's prompt for a status. Okay. And I changed it to, what are your blessings today? And I thought, like, what if you made that the center of the whole platform? What if you put that microcopy everywhere? It's like, that would change how people use platforms.
Dude, that's fantastic. Like, if Facebook asked me, what's on your mind today? Smiley face. I don't know if you or people listening have heard of the survey platform Wufoo. It was acquired by SurveyMonkey. It was one of the first batch of YC startups. They made one small tweak to their support request form. It was asking, what's your issue? What's your browser version? And they added, what is your emotional state?
Oh, wow.
And what they saw, dude, was an overnight decrease in anger and frustration in the support requests. People had a place to vent their emotional discontent. And so in the same way, products like Facebook, products like Wikiprop can be designed in ways that optimize optimism.
Positive interactions.
That optimize positivity and kind of make that the default. Not in an unrealistic, everything's rosy kind of way, but in just helping point people in small ways towards the beauty of whatever it is that they're doing.
Think about how cool it is that you're contributing to policy right now if you're on Wikiprop, something like that.
Yes.
The last couple of things are, one, kind of design thinking in policy, and then two, I want to touch on media. So first, where can we kind of bring more aspects of design thinking and the design process into our policy making process to make policies that are better at tweaking the system or tweaking people's behavior?
It's a great question. The two things that pop to mind immediately are the literal design of the black letter law, the policy and the way it's displayed to people, right? And so that's what I'm trying to do with Wikiprop is like, don't, as a citizen, as a voter, don't make me read through pages of all caps text that has, very tight leading, very tight whatever, the
legal jargon.
The legal jargon but also like simple typographic design, like the ordered lists, they need to indent on the page, just like
they need to be designed to be scannable.
They need to be designed the way a fucking designer would do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm trying to do on Wikiprop, adding a little bit of spacing between the paragraphs, doing things that physically, visually design laws in a better way.
Yeah.
And then in a deeper context, the design of the policy, metaphysically speaking. Let's think about, you might know the name of the designer who said this, very, very famous designer, who said that great design is invisible.
I've seen that. I don't know exactly.
Paul Rand. I mean, one of
Tim Brown or something.
It was one of the fathers of design, the people that we study at ASU, at the ASU Design School, and they said great design is invisible. And for anybody who doesn't quite understand what that means, it means that a designer's job is never to make it look pretty.
It's to minimize friction between what they want to do and what they can do.
Yes, and to make the design part of it unnoticeable, completely unnoticeable.
So you just do what you want to do and you're not noticing the tools you're using.
Exactly, so that the content shines through. And in that same way, policy could be designed with the real intent of being transparent and easy to work with, and we would have significantly better policy because we would have diversity at the table. When large numbers of people can easily understand our regulations and our policies, it makes for a better conversation, and it makes for a real ability to problem solve.
Yeah, absolutely.
The last thing I was going to say in terms of like designing the experience of policy is what we're seeing with some of the more progressive companies when it comes to their terms and conditions.
Oh.
Go read Google's terms and conditions. Go read Airtable's terms and conditions. They still have a couple bits of legal jargon because maybe they haven't figured out how to like simplify it.
Yeah.
But there are companies out there that have terms of service on their website that read like plain English. And they talk to you, the user, and it's easy to understand. It's a lot to read through.
Yeah.
It could be simplified even further, but it's a lot more plain English. Imagine if that's how our laws were. And imagine if our laws were linked. Every reference of, HB 4758.
It's just in there as a link.
Yeah, is whatever is
That'd be awesome.
Hoverable. And you can quickly catch a glimpse of what that law is saying, what that piece of the ARS is supposed to mean, and you can continue reading your plain English laws to decide whether that makes sense to you or whether you feel like there's a better way to do it.
It's almost like a giant community IDE for the code of law.
It's a great way to put it.
Kind of a shitty pun. One thing I want to touch on real quick, we need to be measuring the specific impacts of policies and making that very accessible to people.
Yeah.
And that's part of the design process,
That's
right?
the last step. Yeah.
Measure, iterate again.
Yep.
So we're missing kind of that focus on, let's see how this turns out. Let's see what our goals were. Let's see how they're matched, right? If we came up with OKRs for every policy and see how they affected the OKRs before and after, I think we would have a lot better idea on the directions to go. But now, like, we don't have that, and that's why everyone's like, all this fake news bullshit, I don't know what the truth is a reason. Like, if we had those metrics and we had them public and we had them being talked about during debates, I don't think any of this would be a problem.
So that's a great point. I would say that's definitely a missing link of the policy making process, is like a direct correlation between measurable results, the KPIs or the OKRs, and informing policy and saying, okay, we tried.
Yeah.
Clearly that was the wrong way to go about it, or that wasn't the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
Now let's edit.
Yeah.
Let's tweak.
And that has to be changeable. A lot of the times it's not changeable.
Yeah.
Just stacking amendments on amendments. It's like
stacking amendments and waiting for 2 years to be able to vote on the next thing or to be able to whatever. No, this shit's got to be able to roll through quickly, especially as the world moves faster and faster and faster.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can wrap up on one last thing, which is, to everyone listening to me, what would you say are the best ways that we can become more aware politically and better voters?
I would say I've boiled it down to what I ask people is, what sucks about interacting with our government? What sucks about voting? What sucks about discussing politics?
Yeah.
And do you see opportunities to improve those things? Talk about that. Talk to people like me and Adam about that, because we're all about that. And there are more people than we realize that are into the idea of...
Absolutely. A lot of my friends are. Yeah. When you're like studying the people to vote for, maybe find a friend that's a little bit different views from you. Maybe find someone on the other side of the aisle from you. I don't like to use that term. Find someone with, if you're a Democrat, find a Republican to talk about these issues with. Or if you're a Republican, find a Democrat to talk about these issues with. And find that depth in your perspective.
And start with the common ground.
Yeah.
Start with the common ground. What can you agree on? And that would maybe be something really interesting to explore, would be some kind of format, an event or whatever, where the format starts with, let's write out the things we care about. List the top 5 things that you care about, right? What's everybody going to write? Everybody's going to put family.
Yeah.
Right? And then there's going to be like some miscellaneous things like job, environment,
music,
exactly, that kind of stuff. And then what you do is you pair the music-loving Democrat with the music-loving Republican, the animal-loving Democrat with the animal-loving Republican, and you start with the common ground.
Yeah.
And you say, okay, you guys both love this. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Become friends a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, let's have a discussion around the things that you don't necessarily agree on so much, and see how that discussion changes.
I think another part about it is, like, it's not going to be roses and flowers and smiles. There's going to be a little yelling at each other maybe sometimes. I know one of my friends, we had a pretty intense disagreement, and I was like, you're a fucking idiot, like, this is crazy. But at the end of the day, we came back and talked about it like people, and that we didn't let that ruin our relationship.
Yeah.
So, like, if things get heated, like, just say, I don't think we're in the state of mind to discuss this, or let it get heated. I mean, it's kind of fun. I think one big thing to kind of cap that tangent is recognize your common humanity with that person. So you can get mad at each other. So you can disagree heatedly sometimes, but understand your underlying humanity and love that person for that. So those disagreements don't matter.
I love that. It's been a good episode, man.
That wraps it up for this episode of the Applied Awareness Podcast. I hope you're leaving more aware than when the episode started. If you enjoyed the episode, I would love a subscription and a review of the podcast. Tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. I'd love to hear it. So go ahead and give me a subscription and a review wherever you're listening to the podcast. Thanks in advance. For more on the episode today, you can check out our Medium publication at medium.com/appliedawareness. To reach out to me individually, you can tweet at me on Twitter at appliedpodcast or email me at appliedawarennesspod@gmail.com. All of the previously mentioned methods of communication will be in the show notes. Next episode is going to be a really interesting one. It's actually the start of my first series, the mental health series. The next episode will be society and mental health. I'll be talking with my good friend and previous roommate, Colton Lish. Colton's a really strong advocate for mental health awareness and management and education. He's a very deep thinker and strong logician, and he's also an insatiable learner. During the episode, we talk about some really incredibly surprising statistics about mental health in America. And we talk about the societal causes of the mental health issues that we are facing and how, as a society, we can make it socially acceptable to have a mental illness and not stigmatize it, but to act as a society to be a support network for the people that do. If you're interested in mental health or know people who have mental health issues, this would be a really useful one. And if you just want to learn more about mental health, it's gonna be a really good listen. Check it out, and I will see you next time.